Alright guys, what's going on? Ben Hersick back with another episode of the Armchair Armdrager Podcast. This week we have a Stomping Grounds review, and there's a couple other topics I do want to talk about, two of which happened yesterday and today, and one that's been going on for a little while. But first, as always, the quick media shout-outs for myself. I hate that I shout out myself, but it's not a shout out, but follow me at these places to talk to me about pro wrestling and other things. For example, video games, because I enjoy those. I also enjoy talking about sports and pretty much anything that people are interested in, which is always fun to talk about. So you can follow me on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. And you can follow the website I write for, All Things Combat, at Things Combat. For those that don't know, All Things Combat is a website that covers professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. We are still in the middle of our SummerSlam review, where we take each and every single SummerSlam by year and review them and give you our opinions on them. I do a now bi-weekly, roughly, series on there called How Did They Get Here, where I take a certain wrestler and I look at their journey on how they got to where they are today, from their humble beginnings to possibly main event status somewhere. Examples are Mia Yim, Paula Cruz, Pete Dunne, and last week I covered Yoshihashi. I decided to talk about the guys who were in the G1 last year that didn't get in this year, that are still in New Japan. So no Michael Elgin, Kenny Omega, or Hangman Page. But we did Yoshihashi this last week, and next week I'm covering Minoru Suzuki. This man's career has spanned from 1988 to 2019. It's a long career, and I'm very excited to cover it. It's going to take a long time to get all this information together, but I should have it done soon. Very excited for you guys to read it. That will, again, be over on Things Combat, or All Things Combat, the website. And this past week, I was a guest on the Lotus Moon podcast, where the host over there, Cody, and I just shot the shit about wrestling and talked about everything under the sun for about just over an hour, I believe. I'll have a link to that in the description below. And that's all the media stuff I can think of off the top of my head. So let's dive right into it. I wanted to start with something that's been kind of on my mind recently about pro wrestling, and that's the wrestlers in WWE getting name changes. And it seems like I'm the only person fine with it. And there's a good reason why to me. They've gotten over their gimmicks before. They've gotten over their name before. Best examples, look at Shane Strickland and what he did on the independent scene, ACH and what he did in Ring of Honor, the independent scene, and New Japan. Look at, who else recently got one? Jonah Rock, Trevor Lee, Punishment Martinez. All these guys have gotten over a name and a gimmick before. They know how to do it. And to be fair, Shane Strickland's got the easiest job. His name is now Isaiah Scott, but they let him keep Swerve. He's Isaiah Swerve Scott. That is going to be very important because of the fact that now we at least can tell who he is. We know who he is. So I look at it too. It is their job to get over a name. It's not their fault that a name doesn't work. By they, I mean the wrestler. The name could not work for multiple reasons. It could work because it's complicated, it's hard to remember, it just doesn't click. Names like Aleister Black. Who else did they change that's worked really well? They changed Aleister's name. They've changed... Oh, God, I'm forgetting somebody. I know it. I'm not just talking cutting off the last name or the first name, like Rusev or Cesaro or Andrade. But completely took their name, threw it away, and gave them a different one. The only one coming to my mind is Aleister Black. That's gotten to the main roster, at least. Sami Callihan left and was Sami Callihan again, where he was Solomon Crow here in WWE. But to me, the name changes aren't the biggest issue. It's just the way that they aren't as creative as they could be. Like Isaiah Scott, Cameron Grimes. It helps that Trevor Lee is from At least according to Cage Match, he's from Cameron, North Carolina. Same place as Matt and Jeff Hardy. But to have that as his name, it's kind of dumb. It's actually very dumb. Although from what I read, we might be seeing Trevor Lee and Stokey I can never say his name. Like somehow that's the reason. That's the point I'm making right there. I think we're getting Trevor Lee and I'm gonna say it's Stokely Hathaway as a singles wrestler and a manager, which I'm very interested in because those are two guys that could work very well together. Trevor Lee's a good talker. Hathaway's a great talker. Could work wonders. And like these guys, they know the important aspect to me isn't the character. It's what they can do in the ring, and I know what these guys can do in the ring. So to me, it doesn't matter what the name is. But what does matter is, like I said, how they are in the ring and how good they can be. I look at it as we know what Shane Strickland can do. We know what ACH can do. We know what all these guys can do. Except for, I believe Boa is the only one we don't know exactly what he can do. And that's that Chinese signee they've had for a couple years now. It's a weird time in WWE because, at least with the name changes, because some of them work. Like I don't mind Isaiah Scott. I don't mind. I'm blanking on what ACH's is, but I didn't mind it when I heard it. They kept Garza Jr.'s name the same. They just dropped the Junior and added, I believe it's Angel. Jonah Rocks was kind of dumb. Trevor Lee's was kind of dumb. I don't mind Punishment Martinez in his name change. I think the only issue with that is it could be seen as like an Aleister Black knockoff, for lack of a better term, because of the fact you have somebody who he's good in the ring. He's not the best. He's not the most polished, but he's good. Punishment Martinez can get the job done. Could he be a world champion one day? Possibly. He always seems like he's that guy that's going to flirt with the main event scene, but is just like a step too low. And it's a shame because he is really good in the ring. But it's just like there's one thing that was missing to me when I was watching him in Ring of Honor, and that was a character. Could Damian Priest be that character he was looking for? We have to wait and see. It's gotten pretty good reviews so far from what I've heard in NXT. Still haven't watched it. I need to find time to watch NXT. I mean, I have. Once I get these 2 articles done, I'll be able to, but it's like I just want to sit down and watch it and have the time to actually like digest it and think about everything. Also, so let's get to the news that has been breaking the past couple days. The one that I want to talk about first is Evolve 131 airing on the WWE Network. To me, I don't have an issue with this. I don't. And I have a very good reason to me. At least to me, yeah, at least I think it's a good reason. Evolve is a company that has a partnership with WWE. And months before this, I remember the tweet that I sent out about it. WWE ran I think it was a poll. I never got it, so I felt left out. But they ran a poll where it was said that some of the options for an upgrade to the network where it would be like a higher price tier would be a couple more things along with associated promotions airing matches on the network, like airing shows. It's like Evolve, Progress, WXW, and so on and so forth. ICW was another one too. So I look at this as a very good thing. This is a great thing to me because you can now watch wrestlers you haven't seen before. I don't know if the card is out for Evolve 131 yet. It's also Evolve's 10-year anniversary show, which is always good to see a company be around for that long. And I believe one of the matches, at least from what WWE posted, is going to be Matt Riddle versus the new Cruiserweight champion, Drew Gulak. So I'm curious also if this is going to be like kind of a WWE-dominated show because of the fact that a lot of the guys in WWE used to wrestle for Evolve. Johnny Gargano comes to mind, Ricochet, Tony Nese was in Evolve, for a little bit. So on Cage Match, they don't have Evolve 131 listed yet. That should be coming in the next few weeks, I believe. The issue with this was when Kenny Omega, or when you looked at the date, not Kenny Omega yet. The issue was the date, and it was on July 13th, the same day as All Elite Wrestling's Fight for the Fallen. Now, Kenny Omega took to Twitter about this and said some words. He mentioned blood money, which I agree that they shouldn't have that money, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of them running the Saudi shows. I never have been. I don't want to see any more, but we're probably going to get 17 more in the next 5 years. So we have to live with it. But here's the thing to me. These are guys in Evolve who just need a chance to show the world what they can do. Who just want a chance to make their dream happen. Make their name known in the wrestling world. This is a great way to do it. You can have amazing guys. And the best example is AR Fox. He is he's a very talented wrestler. He's very good. He just hasn't had the stage. He hasn't had the chance to show the world just how good he can be. This is the show for that. Same with Austin Theory. And he's the current Evolve champion, mind you. He hasn't had a chance to show the world what he can do. Those two could have a hell of a night at 131 and get the wrestling world talking about them. And to me, it's something WWE has mentioned for a long time. I believe it was the fall of last year, I want to say, when the idea of even having promotions that have working relationships with WWE as an option on the network, as something you can watch. And that was in a random poll for fans. This is WWE listening somewhat to what we say we want to see. We've said we wanted to see promotions that work with WWE in an easier to see environment. Big shows like Evolve's 10-year anniversary show are a perfect way to do that. And I know I'm probably going to get people saying, oh, he's just a WWE mark. He's a WWE fanboy. This is what I've grown up with. I was born near the end of the Attitude Era. I was born in 1997. I didn't start watching wrestling until I was 7 or 8. This is the wrestling I know. I've known WWE for so long, for my entire life. I should rephrase that, as my entire life of a pro wrestling fan. I have known WWE. I have enjoyed WWE. Yes, sometimes I bash it. Yes, sometimes I criticize it. And there are some times where I praise it and I truly enjoy it. This is the wrestling world we live in. Not every single show is going to be hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. You have to have shows in between that are okay and lead to something else down the line. But something like this helps wrestlers who have never had that chance. This is what they need. They just need that opportunity. And it's amazing to see WWE giving them that opportunity. Also, the only other flaw I saw with Kenny Omega's tweet about this show airing on the same day as Fight for the Fallen, WWE didn't tell Evolve to run this show. This was Evolve's plan when they got their year started. They were going to run their 10-year anniversary show on their anniversary, which is, I believe, July 13th. I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that's true. They wanted to run that show. They were going to run that show no matter what. It just so happened to fall on the same day. WWE probably does pay a little attention to All Elite Wrestling, as much as they probably can, and they probably knew they were running a show that day, but it probably fell to the back of their minds, or even in Hunter's case, he might not know too much about All Elite Wrestling, because he does have to own 2 promotions to run in NXT and NXT UK. So I look at it, this isn't WWE's fault for running the show. Evolve wanted the show. WWE said, we want to help you. It's a big thing. We want to help. I could be looking too deep into this, and WWE is just like, oh, we do want to go head-to-head with All Elite Wrestling, see what happens, because they need to have, I guess, it's tough to explain. They might be kind of testing the waters to see what draws better, a show on the network or a pay-per-view. I don't know at this point. I'm very curious as if there's a reason that comes out to why WWE is running the Evolve show, but I think that it's just a coincidence at this point. Maybe in a couple days or a week we know exactly why and we'll talk about it then. But right now it just seems like it sort of happened. The other really big news that happened today, actually on today, I'm recording this on Thursday. Hopefully I can get it up at the usual time on Friday. I'm very optimistic that I will. And I'm stalling. This is me stalling because I want to get the title right for what they are. WWE announced Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff are executive directors of Raw and SmackDown, respectively. Here's why I think this is a great idea, and I'll explain even why I'm not mad that Triple H is not one of them. First, why is this a great idea? You have Vince McMahon, Paul Heyman, and Eric Bischoff in power in pro wrestling. You have Aladdin and Men in Black in theaters. You have Pizza Hut with their original logo, and Keanu Reeves is adored by everybody. We're back in the 1990s, y'all. Also, thank you, Ryan Satin, for putting that together. That's totally not my own original idea. But I think this is a great idea. You have wrestling minds at work here. These guys understand wrestling. These guys know wrestling. Yes, ECW and WCW are no longer around. That was due to a funding issue. That was not Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman saying that we're just done. We don't want to do this anymore. They wanted to do it. They enjoyed what they were doing. The issue was they didn't have the money or they didn't have the funding for it. So they eventually have joined WWE together. They've been in there for a long time. If you haven't noticed, Paul Heyman is the advocate for the reigning, defending, undisputed Money in the Bank holder Brock Lesnar, and Bischoff has always kind of been with WWE since leaving WCW and showing up on Monday Night Raw in 2003, I believe. So the reason this is good it's wrestling minds running a wrestling company. Or I should say, wrestling minds running shows. And the reason it's good is they might have a little more creative control than if Vince is not working over their shoulder. We know how heavy Vince wants to be involved in things, but if this is Vince kind of saying we want to see what these guys can do and if they can help make our product better, which I believe they can, I think they can, then we could be in for something great. Imagine if Heyman and Bischoff agree to end the wild card rule and the stupid 2 out of 3 falls situation going on right now. I would be so happy if that was the case. You have guys that don't get TV time that want TV time. We didn't even see Andrade on TV this week. We haven't seen Ali since... Oh, God, when was the last time we even saw Ali? It was before... It was the show after Money in the Bank, and we haven't seen him since. We haven't seen Randy Orton in God knows how long. We haven't seen Aleister Black in a ring since going up to the main roster. We haven't seen Buddy Murphy since the Superstar Shakeup. Cedric Alexander, Eric Young, EC3, and so many more have not been used correctly on Raw. And yes, I understand you can't push everybody, but there are some guys that should at least get matches week in and week out, and we see them on TV. So it's like these guys know what they're going to be doing. They're going to understand the product a lot better than somebody who has never wrestled a match in their life or worked for a wrestling promotion in their life. This is a good first step. Now, I'm curious, do Bischoff and Heyman listen to the fans? Because we have said what we wanted. We have asked for what we wanted. There are certain things we're probably not going to get, unfortunately, this year. The third Mae Young Classic looks like it might not happen. There's no official word on that yet. They could just be waiting. Because NXT does have a long road to go now. They don't have another takeover until Survivor Series. So do we see it now in that area? Also, I hate saying this because I want it so bad. I want it to happen. We're probably not getting an Evolution this year, which is a shame because that was a really good show. I really enjoyed it, and I would love to see another one. It's almost as if the women's division this year is taking a backseat to nothing, essentially. The only thing it's taking a backseat to is that there's no Ronda Rousey, and that's really it. The WWE is still the same as it was at this point last year, minus Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax and Sheamus and oh god, I can't think of anybody else out with an injury. I think those are the only two that are injured because I'm not even counting Ronda as a superstar anymore. But I look at it as this: these guys know what they're doing. They're going to listen to input from the fans. I hope. But it makes sense to me why you would choose these two also and not Triple H. And I was upset because I saw Ringside News posted an article about it and something that could have been explained in a tweet. You don't need a whole 4 paragraphs explaining why Triple H was not chosen for the... I already forgot what the title was. Executive directors. You could have it in a tweet why Triple H is not an executive director. It's because of 3 letters. NXT. He's running NXT. He's running it very well. They want to continue to have that be well. So why would they have him split his time up between SmackDown, for example? That was the first one that popped in my head. Why would he split his time between SmackDown, 205 Live, and 2 NXT promotions? He's already running 3 promotions, essentially. And those 3 are 3 of the best things going with WWE right now. Along with the Nakamura-Balor feud we might be getting, which I am very excited for. It makes sense to me. You don't need Hunter to be stretched so thin. If you're going to have him be the one to take over from Vince, you need him to be ready for it. Have him run NXT, and then when Vince says his time is up, then you take Triple H and his crew, and you move them to the main roster, and maybe you get Shane McMahon running NXT as like the behind-the-scenes figure. Not in front of the camera Shane McMahon, behind-the-scenes Shane McMahon. But it's tough because you don't really have anybody in place for Hunter. I guess you could say Jim Smallman, the guy that runs Progress. Or maybe the people that run Evolve. I'm blanking on their name. I even talked about it with one of my coworkers today. Maybe we see something like that, but I don't know. I am curious about it though, so I'm intrigued to see with Heyman and Bischoff in charge of Raw and SmackDown, along with Hunter in charge of 205 Live and the NXTs. How well does the product get from this point on? Because Raw has been good these past couple of weeks. It's been pretty decent. Well, it was decent last week. It was really good the week before. And SmackDown's kind of been struggling. I think the biggest issue with SmackDown is that you have 2 hours to get as many people on TV as you can. So it's less time, but also you have so many Raw superstars show up on SmackDown. Miz was there this week. I honestly don't even remember. Well, Sami Zayn was there probably. Dolph Ziggler is technically a part of the Raw roster. They could have worked it better and said that, he was like a secret pick or a supplemental pick maybe in the draft that you didn't hear about. Who else was on? I don't even remember what happened to SmackDown. That was 2 days ago. No Joe, which was a surprise. I'll talk a little bit about that when we go to Stomping Grounds review, which I think I'm about to, because my final point on this all being run, if we can end the wild card rule, if we can end the stupid commercial break thing, which would be very nice, I would be very happy, and we would have 3 guys running 5 promotions in a very good way for everybody. Hunter's job is done with NXT for math. A little over a month, I want to say. At least for the North American NXT. UK NXT, we still need 4 more matches for TakeOver Cardiff. Because I'm pretty sure we're getting Kaylee Ray. Is it Kaylee Ray or Kylie Ray? I believe it's Kaylee Ray. Against Toni Storm And that's really all we know for TakeOver Cardiff, I think, at this point. We know the entire card for TakeOver Toronto. I'm not going to spoil it. I don't think I spoiled it yet, so I'm going to leave it under wraps. But it looks really, really, really good. Like always, it's NXT and TakeOver. So he's going to probably do one more set of tapings with the NXT UK crew. And then he'll pretty much just have 205 Live to run for a couple weeks. Leading up to SummerSlam. So with that, I think it is time. I'm trying to think of anything else that really happened recently. Not going to do anything with the G1 until next week. No other real big news or tournaments. No new signees, really. So, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything else except for the Stomping Grounds review. Talk about a show that exceeded expectations, in my opinion. We went into the show not expecting much. We didn't really know what we were going to get. I will say, as the days went on and I started to think about the card more and more, I got a little more excited. Because, I mean, you look at it, you had Drew Gulak, Tony Nese, and Akira Tozawa for the Cruiserweight title. That was going to be pretty good. Because Drew Gulak and Tony Nese are really good. And Tozawa's kind of the wild card. We haven't seen too much from him. But it was still a little something we were curious about. Because of the fact we haven't seen too much of Tozawa, so we want to know what can he really do. We haven't seen him in a prominent role since this time. Oh God, when did Neville leave? 2 years ago? Since this time 2 years ago, whenever Tozawa won the Cruiserweight title. For not even a week. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Big E and Xavier Woods, excuse me. That was going to be pretty good. Those two guys who understand wrestling from a independent standpoint versus a guy who understands wrestling from a WWE standpoint and a guy who understands wrestling from a TNA standpoint. Remember, Xavier Woods was Consequences Creed in TNA. So there's four guys that understand wrestling, which is very nice. And it was a really good match. Ricochet and Samoa Joe, everybody was expecting great things from that one. Kofi and Dolph, we expected a decent enough match from it. And you could even say Bryan and Rowan versus Heavy Machinery was an expected match. I believe, was it Tucker? I'm looking at something really quick. They didn't say it. No! Was it Otis? Oh my God, I'm blanking so hard. No, not Tucker. Otis. This one. It was Otis, okay. Otis was the Rookie of the Year, according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, in 2017. This is a fan-voted on award. And the fans gave the award to Otis Dozovich, which is very, very interesting. So, we were probably going to be in for a really good SmackDown Tag Team Championship match that we weren't expecting. So, let's talk about the matches one by one, and we'll get to the main event when we get to the main event, because I have very little to say about it, but it's something I think needs to be said. Let's start with the pre-show match, Drew Gulak versus Akira Tozawa versus the Cruiserweight Champion, Tony Nese, for his Cruiserweight Championship. Cruiserweights are always great. They've always put on amazing matches. This one kind of felt like it could go three different ways. It could go with the nice story where Tony Nese is again successful in retaining and defending his championship. It could go the dark way where the dark side takes the title away from the good side with Drew Gulak taking the title. Or the way nobody expected with Akira Tozawa taking the title and nobody seeing it coming. It was a very NXT kind of feel match where guys were just doing anything and everything they could. Which is what a Cruiserweight match should feel like. You just go out there and you fly around and you do everything. And it's a reason 205 Live has been really good these past few months even. These guys are just now getting the chance to go out and do whatever they want and show why they are the best Cruiserweights in the world. To me, it's starting to become a fine line to me where I draw between Cruiserweight and light heavyweight, or junior heavyweight, excuse me. Because of New Japan, I'm kind of a little more scrutinizing on that now, where it's like, okay, what is considered junior heavyweight? So I've kind of come up with a thing. 205 and under to me is a cruiserweight. 206 to 220 is junior heavyweight. So technically, Yo and a couple other guys who were in Best of Super Juniors qualify as junior heavyweights and cruiserweights, but they're cruiserweights first to me. That's like a personal thing. I'm just like trying to think, why is there two different terms? And I've been trying to figure that out for so long, and I still don't really get it. Catchier name, I guess. I don't know. But to me, this looks like it could be the beginning of a nice story. I do think we're going to see Gulak go on a dominant heel run. Tony Nese now has a rematch at Extreme Rules for the title. I hope that's a ladder match. Okay, maybe not, because those two don't fly around as much as I would like for it to be a ladder match. Submission match plays in the Gulak's weird wheelhouse. When can I ever speak? I don't even know if English is my first language. It might be my 18th at this point. Who else? What else could there be? What other stipulation? Extreme Rules itself, maybe. Tables match? Maybe? I don't know. I feel like every match should have a stipulation for Extreme Rules. If we're just getting basic one-on-one matches, it's like, why? But I'm very excited. I think we see him retain against Nese. You can see him retain against Tozawa at the next pay-per-view, SummerSlam, I believe. There could be a couple other faces getting championship matches. Jack Gallagher comes to mind. Brian Kendrick. I do think this is eventually going to be the way they get the title onto Humberto Carrillo. I could be wrong, and I could still be not saying his name correctly because I'm not up to date on 205 Live either. And I feel very bad about that one because I want to watch it. I really do. I'm tired after SmackDown. I went to bed at like 9:30 last night. The day before. I don't even remember. No, I stayed up to watch SmackDown. I went to bed at 9:30 last night. That's what it was. Yeah, I was right the first time. Shouldn't have changed it. And that's the issue with 205 Live. It's just on so late. So I don't know if I'm saying Humberto Carrillo's name right. And I apologize if I am not. I don't want another Titana versus Titan. And Douki versus Doki. But I do think we see not Gallagher. We see Gulak go on a long tear with that title. Eventually, at some point, drop it to Carlolo. I could be wrong and he drops it to Mike Kanellis. I'm curious. I have read the spoilers for 205 Live. I'm curious where that goes now. Because you have... It was reported that Kanellis signed a new 5-year deal. Both the Kanellises signed a 5-year deal. Or 5-year deals. And now he's signed for 5 years. He's probably going to get a title run soon. Is he the one to take the title? Have a short run, drop it to Carlolo, and then maybe they have a really, really good feud for it? I don't know. I'm curious. But I think Gulak winning the title is the right move. We didn't think Nese was going to have a very long reign. They needed the title to get off of Buddy Murphy. Because Murphy is too good to stay on 205 Live. I hate saying that, but it's true. He's too good to stay on a show that doesn't get as many viewers as they would like, probably. So we got the call up, and we haven't seen him since. But imagine if we have. That would be nice. He got the call up, and Nese was the perfect person to take the title from Murphy, so that way they could get the title to Gulak. So I'm very curious to see how long Gulak holds the title for. We just had a long reigning heel champion in Murphy. Do we get another long reigning heel champion in Gulak? Gulak? Gulak. It's Gulak. Excuse me, I'm a little stuffy. Then we get to the main card, and do I even need to talk about Becky Lynch versus Lacey Evans? And to me, as much as I care about as much as I care about pro wrestling, it's also a what have you done for me lately kind of thing. What has Lacey Evans done recently? She beat Natalya for a women's championship match. She lost to Becky Lynch. She lost to Charlotte Flair. And she lost to Becky Lynch again. And now she's getting another title opportunity at Extreme Rules. It's no wonder Sasha Banks wants to leave. To me, Lacey Evans, I explained this on the Lotus Moon podcast with Cody. Lacey Evans is good. She's good. She's not one of the people they grab from the independent scene like Becky Lynch, Sarah Logan, Bayley, Sasha Banks, Ruby Riott, Dakota Kai. She's not one of these amazing pro wrestlers first. She's a character first. That clicks with some people, that doesn't click with others. I get the character. It's not that problem. The problem is the character doesn't work for me, especially when she's just handed title opportunity, where she's gone 1-3 in main roster matches. That's wrong. That's an issue. She has a 25% winning percentage. Why is she getting title matches? And that match with Becky Lynch wasn't even great. It wasn't even good. It was maybe the worst match on the show. And I'm saying that knowing that Baron Corbin is in the main event later. This might have been the worst match of the entire show. I shared a GIF of it on Twitter, or a video. I don't know which it is. I'm mad about this match right now. Where Becky is in the ring with Lacey after hitting a move in the corner. You see Becky mouth. I don't think you can hear her say it. She says back elbow. So Lacey reverses the whip, the Irish whip, and whips Becky Lynch into the corner. Becky jumps, does her little springboard to the first turnbuckle and goes for back elbow. Lacey steps back. Like, no, wait, I don't want to do this. And then they go for it again, and it works. You're in there with a ring general and Becky Lynch, and Lacey Evans doesn't know what she's doing. She's not ready. I keep saying this. Lacey Evans was called up too soon. She should not be on the main roster yet. She should be having a run in NXT, a good run in NXT. She had a decent run in NXT. There are people NXT can't get on TV. Lacey Evans was one of them. She should be down there learning how to wrestle a little better. And I hate that I'm saying this, and I know it's kind of wrong for me to be saying wrestling a little better. She's just a little green, in my opinion. She's not done yet. She's gonna continue to get better and better as her career goes. She's gonna be good later. It could also be she's just not. Her and Becky just don't click in the ring. There's always guys that click with everybody you see, and then there's that one person they get, and it just doesn't work. For whatever reason, you don't know what it is. It just doesn't work. That's me with Lacey Evans at this point. I think she can be great. She can be fantastic. Just get her in a different program. Let us get to know the character and let us get to know Lacey a little more. Then I have her challenge for the Raw Women's title or SmackDown Women's title if she's on SmackDown. And then we can see where we go from here. We can learn a lot about Lacey Evans, and we can actually see where we fall on the is Lacey good or is Lacey bad line. I'm on the Lacey Evans is good side, but if she keeps getting unearned title opportunities, it's going to go to Lacey Evans is not bad, but Lacey Evans is just Vince McMahon's type, and we're tired of Vince McMahon's type. I've said this for years. I'm tired of the same 5 people getting these opportunities. I want it to end. And I think we can finally get it, but it keeps rearing its ugly head, and I'm like, stop it. Let's go to a good match. Yay, we got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn next. I'm happy. I just looked down at the card because I completely forgot the order. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Big E and Kofi. I keep saying Kofi Kingston. I guess to me, Xavier Woods is the WWE champion. Big E and Xavier Woods. This match was 100 miles out the gate as soon as it started. Owens and Zayn did a smart thing. They took out the recently returned from injury Big E, and they focused on the smaller guy in Xavier Woods. They hit big move after big move after big move I remember there was a swanton, there was a haluva kick into a pop-up power bomb, there was the Blue Thunder bomb, and through everything, Xavier Woods kept kicking out. You couldn't keep him down. He refused. That was the beginning 3 or 4 minutes of the match. These guys just get pro wrestling, and that's what it should be. Every match doesn't have to be 100 miles out the gate like that, but if every match you have big move, and then like a dramatic kick out at 2 and, to quote Nigel McGuinness, 7/8. That's how it works. That's how you get the audience invested in what is going to keep this guy down, and can they keep this up? And they did. They kept this pace for the whole match. Big E got the hot tag. We got to see Big E do all these crazy things. He took his dumb suicide dive. I call it dumb because it just looks scary. It's probably actually really safe with him landing on his shoulders after the dive instead of his chest. But you look at it, Owens and Zayn needed something after this match, before this match. They needed something to keep their credibility. That was a win here, and they got that. This was the right call. And to me, you look at it, it still baffles my mind that Sami Zayn is not in the mid-card title picture at least. Can you imagine the match him and Ricochet could have? Right now I'm pushing hard for Ricochet versus Rey Mysterio at SummerSlam. Give them 20 minutes, and I will be a happy person. But maybe in the build-up to Survivor Series, I pitched Aleister Black as the Intercontinental Champion to one of my coworkers today. And Black versus Ricochet at Survivor Series, which would be fantastic. But maybe at some point before or after Survivor Series, maybe at the pay-per-view after Survivor Series, Sami Zayn wins the wins the Raw, let's say Raw Women's Championship. What the hell is wrong with me tonight? I can't word. I can't English. Let's try that again. Maybe before or after Survivor Series, Sami Zayn wins the United States Championship, and we finally get Sami Zayn as a champion on the main roster. I don't think he's going to win the Universal title in a year. I don't know who the hell is going to take the title off of Seth Rollins, to be fair. What I am curious about, though, is who's going to take the title off the United States title off of Ricochet. Sami Zayn fits the bill pretty well. And Kevin Owens, now you can put him in the Intercontinental title scene. Imagine a triple threat or even a fatal four-way. Imagine the triple threat of Balor versus Nakamura versus Owens, or a fatal four-way of Balor, Nakamura, Owens, and Aleister Black. Sign me the hell up for either of those. New Day from here. Maybe they're the next challengers for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. It's interesting to think about New Day these days with Kofi as champ, because of there's possibilities of them breaking up. I still say they move too much merch. There is no way they're breaking them up. You would lose so much money in sales. That's coming at it from a business standpoint. From a show standpoint, hell yes. Let Big E be the one to destroy Xavier Woods' trombone and beat up Kofi Kingston. So let's look at Ricochet versus Samoa Joe. And I thought about this with somebody, and we actually agreed. And then they said it on the show, and we were like, wow, we were right. These two have never met before. And they already had that kind of chemistry. That's incredible. Also, I explained this to one of my friends. If you're at home or on your phone, look at the card. Every single person on this card, except for Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler, have in some way, shape, or form been involved in NXT. NXT works. And we give everybody oh, they're called up. There's the burial. NXT is working. But Ricochet and Joe, like I said earlier, right call to get the title on Ricochet. Great match with AJ Styles the next night. I'm curious. Could we see a reformed club? I'm curious now, and I saw this rumor going around, and I don't want to spread false hope. Are we us seeing Gallows and Anderson more? Is that them saying that they've re-signed? I don't know. I want them to resign. I would love to see more Gallows and Anderson. If they do leave, go to New Japan. Don't go to All Elite Wrestling because New Japan needs more help in that tag team division. Gallows and Anderson are the perfect guys for that. But could we see a reformed club with Gallows and Anderson as the tag, AJ as the leader and the main event guy, and Ricochet as the mid-card guy? That would be a very, very interesting stable. They all have ties to Japan. It works. Is it Bullet Club? No. If they made a trade of Finn Balor for Ricochet, yes, it would be Bullet Club again. But I would love to see Ricochet in that stable. And after the show, we'd have to ponder the question, where does this leave Samoa Joe? We know now, and I'm very, very nervous about it, to be fair. But I'm excited to see what Ricochet can do in the future. It was nice to me to see all the people backstage ready to congratulate Ricochet. You had Seth Rollins, who's kind of the face of the locker room, and I guess if you want to say, he could be the face of the WWE. You had Carmella was there, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder were there. I think it was Charlotte. I might be 100% wrong, but I think it was Charlotte. Heavy Machinery was there, and Triple H. Very nice, touching moment. And then we got to the Heavy Machinery versus Bryan and Rowan SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. I didn't know just how good Heavy Machinery could be. These guys can be great. These guys work so well together. I'm not even going to say could. They should have put the titles on them, I think. It's a tough call because you're like, oh, Bryan and Rowan have been spreading this message, and they could be saving it for SummerSlam. But they should have put the titles on them in this night. The reason I say that is because the SmackDown Tag Team division needs a little help. Heavy Machinery showed they can carry this division. They know just how to wrestle, and they know how to get the crowd involved. It was a fantastic match from start to finish. I was happy to see just what Otis and Tucker could do because these guys, they've been overlooked essentially since being a part of the call-ups. Of all 5 that got called up, only EC3 has done less. And EC3 has gotten a cup over. Everybody loves that cup EC3 has now. And he's a former champion. He was a 24/7 champion. Good for you, EC3. But on a more serious note, I do think they should have put the titles on Heavy Machinery because of the fact that this show proved they belong to be in the conversation for best tag team in WWE today. Not in modern history, today. They can become one of the best tag teams in modern history. They could join the likes of the Usos and the New Day and the Hardy Boys. But they need to do a little bit more, I think. We need to see a little more. We need to see them win the titles. I think it's more of a sooner in this case rather than later. I don't know how much sooner. It could be, like I said, SummerSlam. It could be Extreme Rules and a triple threat with New Day. Or a Fatal 4-Way if you involve Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. But, excuse me, yawning. This is a very, very interesting time in the SmackDown Tag Team division. They have the teams. They can make some more, throw together teams like Bryan and Rowan. I still say Ali and Hardy would be great. I want Ali and Hardy, please. Please. Or even Ali and Murphy. Why not? And then the show kind of fell back a little bit, but it wasn't going to be a top level tier 1 show. It was a very consistent show with a lot of good matches. Bayley versus Alexa Bliss for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I still don't get why Alexa Bliss got this match. She's a Raw superstar. She shouldn't even have a rematch. It's dumb to me. It's dumb. That's me hitting my keyboard. It's dumb. But I said this on Twitter, and disagree with what I said, but it's true. Alexa Bliss isn't somebody that's going to give you a 5-star match every time she goes out there. She's going to do her best and do what she can do. And on this night, it worked. We had to see Bayley be Bayley and her kind of step out of the shell that we're used to seeing her in. We haven't seen much from Bayley as champ recently. We haven't seen her defend the title yet. This was her first defense, and it was nice to see her retain. I'm very happy because I want this to be a long reign. And I'm curious, with the SmackDown Women's Division, who exactly is going to be the one to take this title from Bayley? Is it a surprise returning Sasha Banks? Is it Charlotte Flair? Is it going to be one of her friends, Carmella? Will it be like Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, Ember Moon, somebody getting that push? The only person I don't see it being is Liv Morgan. And that's simply because Liv Morgan isn't an established character by herself. She had a character in the Riot Squad, and she played that really well. I really enjoyed seeing Liv Morgan. And you can see her getting better every single match she had in the ring. She just isn't established as a singles wrestler yet. What are we going to see from her in the singles division compared to the women's tag team division? Also, I forgot about Asuka and Kairi Sane, but they're a little busy right now with wanting the Iconics titles. But I look at it, these two, they have some sort of chemistry. It's weird because it's never a bad match between the two. It's never like an outright bad match. They did what they could with Singapore on a cane, okay? Singapore. Why do you guys let me speak words, ever? They did what they could with a Singapore cane on a pole match. God, I'm dumb. But they did what they could, and it was actually a decent match if you take away the stupid stipulation and the stupid thing where Bayley's too scared to use a kendo stick. It's interesting to see what could be happening, though, because Nikki Cross got Alexa Bliss another championship match. Do we somehow insert Nikki Cross into that, make it a triple threat? Bayley pins Nikki Cross, and her and Alexa come out looking strong. As they haven't eaten a loss, they're still fine. And Nikki's won a couple matches here recently. She looks really, really hot. In like a wrestling standpoint, she looks like she's hot and she knows how to win matches. So, could she be kind of like thrown into the match like a triple threat? Because she did pin the champion. It could come down to something like that. She's pinned Bayley. So, you put her in the match. And that could be how they kind of start the breakup angle between Alexa and Nikki. I'm just curious if this is too early for it. I feel like if they do have the breakup angle between the two, Nikki has to be the one to come out on top. Because if they want to build new stars, you have to have them start winning feuds. Nikki winning a feud there would be very big and a good step in the right direction for her. It's tough to say because the women's division is so good, but it's so underutilized is the best word for it. It's got a lot they can do. I'm curious to see what they do. Do. I make myself laugh. I'm a 7-year-old child. Fuck. The next match was Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. This was a lot better than the WrestleMania match. I feel simply because of the fact that a little less limitations put on them, but also a little more time. Plus, they made it feel a little more personal. I don't know how, but they did. So it worked. Weren't too many like big highlights, but there weren't too many lowlights either. It was a very, standard, all-around good match. The aftermath is what's more interesting. At Extreme Rules, we're getting Roman Reigns and The Undertaker versus Drew McIntyre and Shane McMahon. Undertaker and Shane McMahon are 50+. Roman and Drew are going to carry this match. I have read some stuff about this match. I read Undertaker handpicked to work with Drew, which was very nice to see. And it's kind of like a nod almost. Like, I think Undertaker thinks this guy could be a big deal, which would be very good to see. Also, I look at it, this is not the start of something. I feel like this could be the end. We might not see Shane McMahon after this match, which I'm very fine with, but who knows? I also read. Oh, what was the other thing I read? The tag match itself is partially because of people like The Undertaker. And they'll go see the show because of Undertaker. And I do want to point out, go back and watch, aside from maybe Roman Reigns returning after announcing that he had leukemia, on his return night where he announced that he was in remission. Go back through recent history and try and find a return that equals that Undertaker pop. It's 2019. And Undertaker is still getting pops like that. From the lowest Raw crowd in history. And everyone is going crazy for him. In a gimmick that would not work today. That is incredible. It's almost as if like history has transcended itself and now Taker is just like this wrestling immortal that we always look up to. And idolize to be him and get that reaction every single time we return. It's going to be an interesting match. I'm not intrigued by it. It's one of the two matches I'm not really into for Extreme Rules. But I could see it being a okay match, a decent match even. Let's get to the WWE Championship inside a steel cage. Kofi Kingston defending against Dolph Ziggler. Very typical standard steel cage match. Fantastic ending. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Kofi Kingston doing a suicide dive, not onto Dolph Ziggler, onto the floor through the open door of the steel cage to retain his title by his feet touching the floor first. If they had somehow synced it so Dolph Ziggler's feet didn't touch till like a second after Kofi, that would have been even better. Huge props to Kofi for even trying that. That looked very dangerous, so I'm glad that he's safe and fine. I'm very curious about this next feud, though, with Samoa Joe. Joe is a Raw superstar, yes. But I think two things. One, this could be a fantastic match between two guys who just get pro wrestling. And also it's also two guys who have a lot to prove, it still feels like. Joe's looked good on the main roster, but he's never kind of left that mid-card status. Kofi is still fighting to prove that he should be WWE champion. And it's very interesting to see that he's still fighting to prove that he should be champ, even though he's won the title. Also, the second thing I think about this, I still think this is a big if Joe wins at Extreme Rules, he's only a transitional champion that gets the title on Roman Reigns. Because it's Roman Reigns. Of course it is. I hate that I'm saying that, and I really hate it, but it's true. They want Reigns to have the title, and I get it. It could set up Reigns versus Brock. Or even you have Reigns versus... You don't have Reigns win the title, and you see Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania this year, since it is Florida. Reigns is from Pensacola. The Rock is from Miami area, I believe. I know he went to college there, at least. So, I'm more nervous about Kofi in the future with this title. But overall, this was a decent match where everything kind of felt a little safe. They didn't do anything too crazy. But you don't want to do all the time, to be fair. So, really good call by them. The very last match of the show, the main event, was Seth Rollins defending the Universal title against Baron Corbin, with Lacey Evans as the special guest referee. This match was overbooked to hell. Holy crap. However, hear me out on this. I promise you I'm not drunk. It was actually a decent match. Baron Corbin, I'm like the only person that's a Baron Corbin fan that I know. Baron Corbin is good. He's not great. He's not fantastic. He's not somebody who's going to knock your socks off. He's good. Pretty solid. For somebody who's never wrestled a match before coming to WWE, he's really good for that part. Just when you book it like this and you have restarts, you have slow counts, fast counts, heel and face dynamic is kind of like meh. It just doesn't work for me. I hated the match because of the booking. I didn't hate it because of the actual wrestling. It's a match that we knew we were going to get and we didn't want to see because it's a C show. It's a show that doesn't really matter. It matters overall in the grand scheme, but it doesn't really matter to everything. It's... Oh, God, how do I even explain this? It's a filler feud for something. Whatever Seth Rollins is doing after this feud cannot come fast enough. Baron Corbin is not ready for a main event feud level. He's perfect for a mid-card feud. And perfect for a low-level upper-card feud. But main event feud, he's not there just yet. There's just like one or two things missing, and it's like... One's crowd reaction. Two would probably be... He just doesn't connect with the crowd at all. I think Baron Corbin could be good. He could be really good. And in the mixed tag, it's going to be him and Rollins carrying it because Lacey Evans isn't ready yet. But I think it could be decent. It could be decent. I'm hoping it's decent at least. What else was there in that match? Becky came out and made the save after Lacey Evans showed, oh, she's working with Baron Corbin. What a surprise. I'm very curious if that's the only reason they were alluding to Seth and Becky as a couple. All throughout the show. So maybe that was the only reason. So we could get to the mixed tag. If that's the only reason, I'm fine with that. But never mention it again. I am tired of it. One of my coworkers who's not like a super huge guy in wrestling, like he watches it, but he doesn't like know like all the in-depth like secrets and stuff and rumors and everything. He was like, I think Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins are dating. I'm like, gee, you couldn't tell? They only mentioned it 15,000 times on the show. It's something where it's like, we know what's happening. We understand that. Don't treat us like we don't know what's happening. We all have social media for the most part. We all see Twitter and all the tweets that everybody does. We all know what's happening. We're all adults. We say that, but there are like probably 13-year-olds that still think it's real. Trust me, kid, it is. It totally is. But it's kind of like, we know this already. You don't need to run it into the ground. We understand that they're dating. It's a thing that's been going on for how long? I want to say it started before Mania. But it is what it is. That was Stomping Grounds. Overall, and I said this for the past two shows, really. Fantastic show. Horrible aftertaste. WWE can get shows from start to the match before the finish. And then the finish just falls flat. If you could nail the finish, then you would have a great show from top to bottom. It's just that finish. The past two, you had Brock Lesnar just run down and win Money in the Bank after pushing Ali off of a ladder. And then you had Baron Corbin and Becky Lynch teaming up to try and beat Seth Rollins, with Becky Lynch making the save and John Cone counting the three count on Baron Corbin. It just doesn't add up, and I'm tired of seeing it. And if they can nail the ending at Extreme Rules, great for them. That's all I can think that I have for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. As always, like I said at the beginning of the show, you can follow me on Twitter at ChurroSolider. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair. And you can follow All Things Combat, which is a website I write for, at Things Combat on Twitter. For those of you that don't know, All Things Combat is a website where we cover professional wrestling, boxing, and MMA. We currently have the SummerSlam reviews going up. We do 3 a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so the next one will be up the same day as this podcast. It is not me, it is one of the other 3 guys. I probably won't edit in who it is because I don't remember. I'm too lazy to check it. Sorry, guys. I would have shouted you out, but I'm lazy. So, I do bi-weekly articles on how did they get here, where I look at a wrestler's journey from humble beginnings to rise to superstardom. This week coming up is Minoru Suzuki in a career that spans over 30 years. Not just in WWE, or not even in WWE. Minoru's never been there. Not just in New Japan. There we go. All throughout Japan and in the MMA world. We also have articles go up. We have about 5 every weekend, ranging from UFC picks to boxing predictions to in-depth articles about all 3 of our sports that we cover. We also do have predictions every pay-per-view. We might not have any for Fyter Fest, and I didn't fit Fyter Fest into this show. Next week, for this podcast, though, we might have 2, now that I think about it. No, I'll probably just do 1. I was thinking about it earlier, and I thought Evolve was this weekend, and I can't do numbers, so I don't know. We'll do 1 next week. I already will tell you, we probably will have a Fyter Fest review. I might not watch it live, but I'll catch another airing of it somewhere. But next week, it's the big one. The podcast will go up before the G1 Supercard. That's not the name of it. The G1 Climax Tournament Kickoff in Dallas, Texas. I will have a full breakdown and predicting article up next week on All Things Combat. And that week, also on the podcast, I will be breaking down and predicting the tournament, revealing my finals and my winner, and even pointing out some of the matches that could be match of the tournament, and even match of the year, because these tournaments usually produce 3 or 4 contenders at least for match of the year. And I will see you all next week with that. I'm curious, either in this one or the next one, leave your comments with who you think is going to win the G1 Climax. You could put both block winners. You could just put one block winner and the person you think is going to win the whole thing. I have my picks. I've had my picks for a little while. I've told my friends at work. So far, no one's pulled out with injury. I probably just jinxed it and somebody's going to pull out now. Hopefully not. I don't want any of these guys to get hurt. This looks like a fantastic tournament this year. I'm sorry that I'm rambling here at the end, but I am very excited for next week. The G1 Climax is one of my favorite tournaments, and this is the second one I will be watching along with live as possible, because I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. every day. A couple of those days I might have work too. I'll try and watch it the same day. That's the goal. All right, guys, thank you for listening so much. Thank you for listening to me ramble about wrestling for a little over an hour. I will see you guys next week, like I said, with the G1 Climax predictions. Yeah, that's all I got. So, bye.